for attending this meeting of the Milton, this edition of the Milton Warrant Committee. And I am happy to welcome as many of our members as here. I think we certainly do have a quorum and we're ready to begin. Lynn, do you want to take the roll, please?
Sure. We have John, Steve, Erin, George, Kathy, Christine, Lorraine, JJ, Dave, Kristen, and from Town Hall, we have Karen Praval, and I'm sorry, Scott Johnson just joined us as well.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. Karen, thank you for joining us. It's nice to have you here. We have a relatively perfunctory meeting tonight. I think we've handled virtually all of the difficult and the involved issues that we had to address. First order of business is to pass the meeting minutes of August 16th. Kathy Cassis communicated a few amendments, which I believe everybody received electronically as well. Are there any other additions, changes, or other modifications to the minutes of the August 16th meeting, other than those we've received? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the August 16th meeting minutes as amended.
George, I'll make a motion. Yeah.
Great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lynn, clerk, please take the roll.
John.
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Erin.
Yes.
George.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Christine.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
JJ.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Dave.
Yes.
And Kristen.
Yes.
Thank you all very much. Next order of business is to vote the amended recommendations of Articles 5 and 6 of the special town meeting warrant. Lynn, if you can put those up so we can all see them, we'll know what we're voting. I think we've already seen them, but just for form's sake, if you want to put those up, that'd be great. Okay. So this is the amendment, and you have the text there too? There you go. Okay, so the amendment to Article 5, if you want to put it back up so we can see exactly the beginning of the text. There you go. Recommended the town vote to amend the following appropriation voted by the 2021 annual town meeting by articles referenced in the table below for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 2021. And we scroll a little further and we see what those are. Lynn, do you want to show those? There you go. I think we're all familiar with these. We see the changes and then scroll a little further. And that to meet said appropriation, the sum of $177,302,000 be raised from the tax levy. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve this amended language?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion here? Hearing none, please take the roll.
John.
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Erin.
Yes.
George.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Christine.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
JJ.
Yes.
Scott.
Abstain.
Dave.
Yes.
Kristen.
Yes.
That's it.
Excellent.
Ohene is also present, and
Hi,
I vote
Ohene.
yes.
Okay, perfect.
And Mohammed is also present, and I vote yes.
Oh, terrific.
Thank you.
Great. So the next one is to amend, our next item is to amend Article 6, which is the following one. The recommended the town vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds or withdraw provided for unpaid bills from fiscal year 2021 as set forth below. And we see these allocations and these line items as listed. Keep going. There you go. $349,717.20. And of course, we all know that these are bills that are just reconciliations that we have to satisfy. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the amended language.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Great. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please take the roll.
John,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Erin,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
JJ,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Muhammad,
Yes.
O'Henny.
Yes.
Great. I think then that, so the warrant, Lynn, you did send around that everybody got the warrants draft, I'm guessing. Okay, so that's our magnum opus for this fall. So congratulations, everybody, for pulling together and getting it done. The nature of the beast is that it goes through iterations. I mean, we will have articles that are withdrawn and articles that will come up and those that will be amended. And as those of you who have not sat through a town meeting will discover, there'll be significant discussion even on points that we have beaten to death times, and some points that we haven't even raised that to us just either dropped off in the rounding or were not as significant as other people find. But in any case, it is democracy at work, and so much the better, because it's nice that we have this level of input to the process. So I believe based on the agenda that we have now, we have new business. I do not believe we have new business. I do want to make sure that everybody is aware of the town meeting on the 25th of October, which is just about a month away, and that you will need 2 devices. We've had this conversation. Does anybody need a second device or does not have access to a second device who needs one? Because we can provide them. The town will be able to give you a laptop or an iPad or something so that you can have the second device available. Because remember, there's 1 device for the town meeting and then 1 device for our meeting, which is held simultaneously, because the town meeting cannot convene unless the warrant committee is in session. And so we will meet at 7 and bring up anything that has been brought to our attention or brought to for our review between the publication of the warrant, which is going to happen very shortly, and the town meeting, in the event that we have to either become aware of something that's going to be voted, or we can vote on something, preliminarily, so that we would save some time at the town meeting. Now, that having been said, that there are only 7 articles, one would almost expect that the town meeting is not going to be very long. I think that's wishful thinking, and it'd be nice if cows gave beer too, but it doesn't happen. And I think generally speaking, you should just be prepared for an evening that will meander. I don't want to say a long evening. It's just going to be an evening that will just have its ebbs and flows. I mean, last annual meeting, how many nights did we go? I've tried to block it. Yeah, I've tried to block it out. And I think that because we were remote and so many of us had taken our video, I think some of us were in our jammies before the meetings ended up. So, I mean, if you want to do that, that's perfectly fine. But do be aware that, people will be able to see us from time to time. So I would just caution you on that. With respect to other things that will come up between now and then, we will begin to see aspects of next year's budget coming towards us. If not in October, then in November, we may be getting some preliminary updates that will happen. We already are aware of some of the things that need to be done. And the focus on the budget is obviously where everybody is particularly concerned. The largest line item in the budget is the school department. And so that's one that usually takes us 2, if not 3 meetings. And the subcommittee on the school budget is extremely active and in the past has been extremely effective. So I'm expecting that will continue. I will give you just a little bit of a heads up that if there is some element or some aspect of the budget which particularly interests you, please keep in mind when we go to make the committee assignments, to volunteer and step forward, because that will be the time to do it. And again, the departments of the town are extremely cooperative. They're very helpful. Some of them are extremely vocal about what they need and won't hold back, and that's great, because there have been times when we have been aware of some of the problems, and other times we've not been aware until too late, and then you get all kinds of inputs coming at you, much later than you would have liked. Which, if we had the inputs earlier, they may have influenced the way we made our recommendations. So just keep in mind those areas which you might want to focus on and be on subcommittees. So does anybody have any questions about the process, or do you have any needs that we need to fulfill with respect to getting you a secondary device for the town meeting, or any issues that we want to discuss as a committee while it's just us? I mean, we've been all together now going into our third month. I am grateful for the level of discourse that we've had. I think we've had some interesting inputs from external sources, obviously, and we as volunteers in this process have to be aware that we are under obligations to follow formats, and I think we do that, I think, in very large measure. I think sometimes we're not quite as vigilant about that, and there's always room for improvement. And as chair, I take responsibility for making sure that we do follow format as well as we can. And so from that perspective, I look forward to any input anybody else has, any contributions, any suggestions. We have a process that has worked. The process can always be tinkered, always be tweaked. And none of us has monopoly on the right way to do things. Some things are more effective and easier, but when we're doing something like we do, all of our inputs are valuable. And I hope everybody feels at least empowered to share the opinion, because I think one of the strengths of the Warrant Committee, certainly now and probably in the years past, is the breadth of experience and professions and backgrounds and just life experiences everybody brings. Whether you've lived in town 50 years, or whether you just moved into town 5 years ago, it doesn't matter. We're all residents, we're all neighbors, and what we have to share has import and has a value. So I think that as we move through the budget process, particularly, and you have friends and neighbors comment to you as they know you may sit on the Warrant Committee, you have some influence over these things. And sharing those perspectives is extremely valuable. Now, what we can do about it is another story, because we all know money's finite. And it would be nice, once again, if we had plenty to go around for everybody. But the limitations that we see aren't going away tomorrow, and the challenges remain. And as long as we have at least a scintilla of creativity and open-mindedness, I think we can at least have the discussion of making sure that things that we can fund and initiatives that we find worthy of recommending to the town meeting do get a proper hearing and are enacted or not enacted, as the case may be, for the betterment of the town. So that having been said, does anybody have any other new business that we need to bring up? And does anybody have a thought as to a meeting necessity between now and the special town meeting in October? I know we've been doing meetings on overdrive, and some of them have been very quick, and some of them have been longer than we'd like. But I honestly don't think we need to meet, because there's nothing on the agenda that I see going forward until we start to get budget items coming forward to us, and that will probably be after the special town meeting. So my thought is the next time we get together will be October 25th. Before the special town meeting, unless someone else has another idea or has an item that we have to address immediately. Okay, I see everybody shaking their head. No, they're all happy. Okay, that's good. We'll take it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
One question. Did we sort out for those of us who are not town meeting members? I remember, I think, I don't know who was, Aaron or someone was going to take the action to figure out how we get access to the meeting through the side panel. Just wanted to see if that had been yet thought about.
Aaron, did you have any progress on that, or is it still a little premature given that we're still a month away?
Yeah, it's a little early.
I thought that we were going to do what we did last time with Milton Access TV and just be panelists that don't speak. So that on one computer, we have the town meeting or whatever, your iPad. And then on the other thing, you have the warrant committee so that you're in real time and not watching it on the television or on Facebook. That's what I thought. Lynn, am I wrong in that?
No, you're exactly right. That's how we're going to run it. So
Okay.
you'll be
Yeah.
panelists. You'll be able to watch it in real time. There will be no lag for warrant committee members. And then the Zoom meeting that you'll log into and discuss will be a private session just for warrant committee members.
Right.
that-
And that's the one that I'm going to run. So
Yes.
I'll send out that invitation.
Yes.
Terrific. Okay,
Okay, cool.
all right, that's
So
good.
will we
So-
not get an invitation for the panelist session?
So you won't be a panelist.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll just be able to listen in, and that won't be sent from Erin or from me. That will
Okay.
be sent by Milton Access, inviting
TV.
you
Right.
Exactly.
to the meeting.
So I think the problem last time was they didn't have everybody's name and address or email address. We might need to make sure that give them a full list.
That's right,
w-
Kathy.
We did. I think there was some confusion. Some people were looking in their personal email addresses,
Yes.
and you always have to be careful it's not sent to your junk.
Right, step
so
in the spam folder.
yeah, so there's some confusion, but I can assure you they do get all sent out. It's just sometimes there's hiccups,
Okay.
with the junk folder and
Right.
such.
Right.
Right.
Right,
And
we
make
wanna-
sure that you're looking for it from Milton Access TV. It doesn't come from Lynn. It doesn't come from me. So tell your secretaries or whoever else that they should be looking for Milton Access TV email. And the other thing is, Lynn, I don't know if you've done this already. You probably have, but you have a list of who's not a town meeting member so that that's all copacetic.
Yes, I believe I know everybody who's town meeting members on the panel. I think Scott and George are the only town meeting members
Right.
on the current panel.
And I will make a comment that while you are, for those, I guess there's only two of us for which this would apply. It is probably a better idea for warrant committee opinions to be delivered. I deliver them as chair on behalf of the committee. As town meeting members, as any town meeting members we have are, I don't want to say discouraged from participating, but the necessity of participation is questionable sometimes because some of the non-warrant committee member meetings of warrant committee members of town meeting might interpret something that a member of the warrant committee would say in a town meeting as speaking for us, and that can be confusing. So I obviously nobody's muzzling anybody else. I wouldn't dream of doing that. But my suggestion is to be extremely judicious about participating, particularly as what we as a group present to the town meeting is just that, our work as a group. And to the degree that there are minority opinions, they are almost always reflected in our comment. And that should be sufficient. So I think we have to be just very judicious as to how we participate and be aware of that, just for the good of the order and the smooth functioning of the town meeting, for that matter. Because for those of you who have been around a while, we can go down a rabbit hole in town meeting very, very easily and very quickly. So I think we want to be careful about that. Scott, your hand is up.
Yeah, I want to reiterate to everybody that my talking at the last town meeting was not to be out of order. I was unaware of this tradition. I guess it's more tradition than anything.
I think that's the right.
Warrant committee members were not to speak at a town meeting. I was, at the time I spoke, very concerned that our vote was being misconstrued by many people as a split vote when it was nowhere near a split vote. And I did speak as, if you go back to the tapes, as a town meeting member, not as a member of the warrant committee. So at that point, I just wanted to set the record straight because I thought that it should have been set straight. And I don't think I said anything inappropriate in those statements. And by the way, the meeting is a public meeting. So anything that happens on a meeting isn't like double top secret. So nothing was really said there that was, and then George did a really good job of making sure everybody knew that. I was very pleased with how that went. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut, I'm pretty sure, unless something comes up that's inappropriate, but I don't expect that.
We'll hope that it doesn't. And what I find so remarkable about this committee is the articulate nature and the thoughtful perspectives that everybody brings in the participation. And we have every point on the political and social and ideological spectrum on this committee, which is appropriate. But I understand that if you have opinion, you want to share it. It's hard not to. Okay. What I still will always go back to is it's up to us to communicate, certainly internally in our meetings as effectively as we can, and make sure that the whole picture is reviewed properly. I think we do a decent job at that. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect, but it's better than not doing it, and it's certainly better than a lot of other ways that it can be done, because I think we do air a lot of points of view and a lot of perspectives. And do we agree all the time? No. I mean, show me 5 people who have half an ounce of brains who are going to agree on everything. Even in a marriage, you don't agree with your spouse.
In my marriage, I agree with my spouse all the time.
Oh, okay, fine. Then you found the secret to happiness.
Yes, dear. Yes, dear.
Yes,
Scott,
dear. That's right.
we'll take that, Scott. We're pretty sure. Pretty sure
Well,
I
it's
can
funny.
say anything. Pretty sure.
It's funny you should say that, because I have 4 daughters, and people would look at my wife and me when we were out when they were younger and say to me, "Oh, you poor guy with all these women in the house, you're outnumbered." And I would just think to myself, I was outnumbered the day I said I do. Who's getting home? I mean, it's just one of those things. You just you agree to disagree and say, okay, fine, let's just make it work. And you take it from that. But I don't disagree. But I think back to our subject. And I'm not criticizing anybody, Scott, and you and anyone else who would participate at the town meeting as a town meeting member. It's just, as you point out, the tradition is not to do that. It hasn't happened. When it does, it has to be a grave exception. And I think you made that exception evident when you spoke. And I don't know. It was just a surprise. I think in that case, it was just a surprise.
My intention, just to clarify for O'Henny, is I have no intention in breaking tradition, none whatsoever. I just, you can never say never and be telling the truth. So O'Henny, you can rest that I understand the tradition now, which I did not understand, even though ignorance is no defense in a court of law. But now that I understand it, I intend to fully honor the tradition, and I understand the reasons for it.
Good. Lynn, your hand is.
Please.
I'm sorry, I missed that. O'Henny?
You missed it, O'Henny.
O'Henny, you
I was just saying, Scott has no need to explain anything to me. He's my brother. He knows I have his back. We marry everything, but he knows I have his back.
We missed part of that, O'Henny, because you broke up a little bit, but I think it was something positive and constructive. So we'll thank you for that too. Lynn, your hand is up.
Yes, just a quick technical thing. Just remember, you, George and Scott, to vote as a town meeting member, you need to vote on the login from Milton Access Television. That was just my only point.
Right.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah, they have in the past made it difficult to vote, and I've had to go back in the middle of the meeting and say, wait a minute, I'm a voting member here too. Let me in, because generally speaking, they had boxed out the Warrant committee members because they didn't think that we were voting members. And of course, over the several years, several members of the Warrant committee have been town meeting members. Anyway, that having been said, is there any other issue anybody wants to bring up, or a concern, or a suggestion? This is the time. We actually are. This is a luxury we're not going to have when we get into the budget and the bylaw review process. Scott, your hand is up.
Where are we at with compliance as to our meeting minutes? Can you give us an update on that now? Let's just get this behind us.
Well, I'll tell you, we handed over, as at our 2 or 3 meetings ago, we handed over the responsibility for answering that to our attorney. To my knowledge, he has gone through the process and completed the response. We have not heard anything from anybody, because I think there's 30 days that are required for the response. The actual date of when he submitted it, I can get. I don't have it, but I'll find out. But I know I talked to him about this probably a week ago, and I asked how it was happening. He had gone through the majority of the information that he needed to review in order to make the response. And initially, as he told us, that the data that was being sought, that was not itemized at the end of the minutes in every case, or in any case, because it was not itemized, was largely contained within the body of vast majority of the minutes, because our clerk takes stupendous minutes, and virtually everything that we have had to review, from budgets to bylaws, has been referenced in the body. And his perspective, as far as I can tell, is that there may be a case and precedent that would permit that to be sufficient, rather than to itemize at the end of each set of minutes what we actually reviewed and what we looked at and what we talked about. And there is no requirement for us to append some of these things, as far as I know, as far as he's advised. So if he does advise that, we can do it. Lynn has certainly, since this was brought to our attention, begun that process of being very scrupulous about listing what is and isn't being used or referred. And as we get into the budget process beginning in November, December, we'll be extremely careful to make sure that that is itemized, so that we are in complete compliance with no interpretation required. Long answer to a short question. When I hear how that is working and the update from town council, obviously I'll share it. If it's necessary for him to come and present to us, I'm sure he'll be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from anyone? All righty. Well, listen, thank you all once again. I think, as I pointed out, I thought this was going to be a relatively perfunctory meeting. We do have to go through the form for these processes and make sure that the articles have been properly reviewed and voted, even with relatively small and minute, and some might say insignificant changes. We still have to observe the form, as that's our duty. So that having been said, if there's no new business, the chair will ask for a motion to adjourn until our meeting October 25th at 7 p.m., which will be a Zoom meeting, current with the town meeting, the special town meeting.
I move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we're not going to discuss this, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Lynn, can you take the roll just before we go off?
John,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
JJ,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Muhammad,
Yes.
and O'Henny.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you all very much. Good night. Happy fall. Yeah, it's getting a little cool out there, so maybe time to start to bring in the outdoor plants. But anyway, thank you all very much. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.